Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gwent, the Witcher card game. My name is Rooster, and this is a game that is in closed beta right now. I received my invitation, I think, a week and a half ago, somewhere in the vicinity. I've been playing it a bunch for the past few days, quite a bit of games actually, and I've been mostly enjoying my time with it, so I thought I'd share my thoughts. And, well, you can take a look and see what you think for yourself. We'll go over how the game works a little bit, and meanwhile I'll try and explain the positives as well as the negatives a little bit. And to jump right into it, we'll start up a practice match against an AI opponent. We'll be using the deck I've been mostly using on the ladder, and which I've had some decent success with. So.
Crush those vermin!
However, we will soon get to one of the major downsides I have encountered so far with the game, and that is exactly the AI opponent. So let's not pay too much attention to the mulligans over here. There's plenty of interesting mechanics going on here. They'll become more obvious as we play a little bit with the deck here. So, mulligan phase in this game, you start with a hand of 10 cards, so that can be a little bit much. There's a lot of info to be had right here. Let's throw away, I don't like that card too much, although it has some nice synergy with certain things. This hand looks mostly fine. Let's go with this. We can redraw one more card. It is basically you can swap out 3 of your starting cards and draw a new card from the deck. You can mulligan the same card multiple times. So if you draw something you really don't want, you can even get a retry. And well, I should start by explaining how the game works a little bit, because it is actually quite different from the usual card game where each opponent, where each player has a life total and you win by reducing your opponent's life total to 0. That is absolutely not how this game works. You can see each card in your hand has a value, and we play those cards on the board. They can be affected by certain other cards from yourself or your opponent. And at the end of the round, whenever both players have passed, the total of the cards that are still remaining on their board are totaled. And whoever has the higher total wins that round. But the game is played in 3 rounds, well, at least best out of 3, so whoever wins 2 games wins the match. However, there's a twist, because certain decks can have effects that carry over from one round to another, and you also use the same hand of cards for the entire match. So we're starting out with 10 cards. Our deck consists of 25, which makes the deck quite consistent. The deck is even smaller than Hearthstone, and we start with a bunch of cards in our starting hand here, which makes for a very consistent experience, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. Between the rounds you draw a couple of cards. 2 cards are drawn for the second round and 1 card is drawn for the third. But it means that most of the information that about what is available to you during the game is actually already apparent to you right at the start. So you can just look at your hand and basically have a game plan, have a decent idea of how the game is going to develop. So let's get started by playing this card over here, which is a 5 strength minion. The sword icon over here indicates that it is a melee minion, which means it goes in this row over here. The game will only allow you to play this minion in that specific row. So let's go and do that right now. Now here is our opponent playing a minion that summons 2 other minions from his deck right to the battlefield. he probably has the third one in his hand because only one appeared, obviously, and they only appear from the deck. That is a mechanic that that the game uses quite a bit, actually. I'm not sure what my opinion on it is. Well, actually, it's mostly pretty interesting because it both thins your deck, as card game experts would say, and it allows for some very powerful plays. As you can see, my opponent just played 13 strength in one turn, and could have played even more had the third card of the combo been in his deck instead of his hand. So that could have been a really strong play, which is the main thing that that I wanted to complain about. Well, not really complain, but one of my criticisms of the game is with the AI. The AI isn't particularly great, but to a new player. But let's think about what we play here first. We could kill one of his minions doing 6 damage to one, or removing 6 strength from one, because the game here doesn't really talk about damage. And that seems like a decent plan, so let's go with that. We remove 6 strength from Lambert over here, which means he is removed from the board. And that lets our opponent... Ooh, well, that's a pretty strong minion all of a sudden. So this potion here gives, I believe, 8 strength to a certain minion, and it gets a bigger buff if it is a Witcher minion, which Vesemir here appears to be. So that is quite strong. Luckily, we have a decent way of getting rid of that, so we could play the Scorch right here. We don't have to. And I don't think I'm going to do that right now. We might be able to have our opponent commit a little bit more to the board. So let's just go with the prize-winning cow here, which is a minion that when it is removed from the board... Exactly, that's basically what I was hoping for here. So we can now Scorch this minion and remove 38 strength from the board instead of 19. So the prize-winning cow, when it is removed, you get a court. Is that how it's pronounced? Which is a 9 strength minion. So, and this also illustrates a particularly cute mechanic in this game, which is that this minion is also removed at the end of the first round. So that means that if we play this card on the first round, it only gives us 1 strength, but whether our opponent removes it or the round just ends, we get a 9/9. Well, a 9 strength minion. I'm tempted to talk about minions as as double-digit entities, but that doesn't really make any sense in this context. So it's just a 1 strength minion, but we get 9 strength later, or when our opponent destroys the cow now, then we get it right now, which is pretty nice. So, we have a Trebuchet. I probably shouldn't be explaining every single card here, because we'll be here forever. I do think we can make our opponent commit a little bit more. We could just pass right now. We have a decent... Well, we're ahead, so our opponent still has to play a card if he wants to win this round. And that is one of the mechanics that makes this game actually quite interesting, because once you have passed, you can no longer... take a turn and drop in the game basically later. So yeah, let's play the long ship here, see what our opponent does. So the Trebuchet is a timed event minion. Not really sure what's the best way to explain it, but it has a timed event that every 2 turns it removes 1 strength from a random minion of ours. So perhaps I would not want the Trebuchet to hit the cow. Perhaps I do. I don't really know. If it hits the cow, that would force our opponent to commit much more to the board, which I kind of like, but then again, I don't feel too horrible about passing here, actually. We're on parity when concerning cards. He has to play an extra card. He does get a random sling of the Trebuchet, but if he hits the cow, he has to commit probably 2 more cards, which is pretty nice. And if he doesn't hit the cow, then that's probably also fine with me. So let's just go with passing here and see what our opponent does. So the Trebuchet has a 1 in 3 of hitting the cow, alright. So that means we have 21 strength right now, and our opponent has to commit more to the board. Which means he probably wants to play 1 more card, committing a lot of potions. So I am perfectly fine with this, and he will likely pass right now, but that does mean that he spent 2 more cards in this round compared to us. So I'm liking that. That does mean that we have 2 more cards to spend during the remainder of this round, compared to our opponent. So, yeah, that's pretty sweet. Now, what happened there? First of all, the poor infantry just makes a copy of itself when it enters the battlefield. That has some cute implications with how our opponent's deck is supposed to work. Of course, if you are buffing your minions and then manage to make a copy of this minion, it will then copy itself again. So it has some nice interactions with buffs, especially. And what you saw happen here is the special ability of our faction, basically. Everyone is playing a faction that is representing a faction and also has a leader, and both their faction has a special ability as well as their leader card also has another special ability. I'll go into leaders a little bit later. His faction is the Northern Realms, which buffs gold cards by a little bit when they enter the battlefield, and this faction is also very much using the gold card mechanic a lot more than the other factions will. So as you can see, there's a gold card in our hand right here. Gold cards are basically immune to a lot of effects that that your opponent or yourself might want to inflict on it. Now, our faction here, we are playing Skellige. Names are a little awkward in this game, so I'll be mispronouncing a lot. I haven't played any of the Witcher games, but I'm liking the card game so far. Our special ability is that at the end of each round, we add 1 to the base strength of every non-gold unit in our hand, deck, and graveyard. So, over the course of the game, our faction gets stronger and stronger, which gives us an advantage in the later rounds of the game. So Skellige is a faction that is more likely to lose the first game and then win the second and third rounds. So that's pretty interesting, and that also explains why all of a sudden our cards are looking pretty good here. Now we're playing a card, Clandimun Pirate, which removes all other copies of Clandimun Pirate from our deck and moves them to the graveyard. So we can now check our graveyard over here. More infantry. I'm a little scared of the Thunderbolt potion coming up, but we do have a decent answer to that, so I suppose I shouldn't be too worried. Well, let's check our graveyard here, because we have 2 Clandimun Pirates right here. So I had 2 copies still left in my deck, so when I played my pirate, the other 2 copies were moved to the graveyard. And now I could resurrect them with some other effects, of course. But the skirmishers that we played in the first round are also in my graveyard right now, which are also an excellent resurrection target. So we could go for that with the Priestess of Freya right now, and it's not an awful idea, actually. I'm kind of liking that. So let's play the Priestess of Freya, who goes on the siege row, as indicated by the trebuchet icon.
We serve her who is virgin, mother, and
let's go and resurrect the Clansurge. I don't even. Let's go with the skirmishers, because when resurrected, they gain 4 base strength. So that's pretty sweet. We've got Eskel over here. So we are still ahead on the board, and that leaves me with the impression that our opponent doesn't have a lot of great options right now. So that would be pretty good for us. I think we can get away with, perhaps we don't have to use our hero power here. We can just play a small card, or actually we can just remove basically all of our opponent's board right now, which I really like. Actually, our opponent is quite low on cards. It will be kind of hard to make some use out of Geralt later. So I think we just play Geralt here. Our opponent does have, let's see, 18 strength on his melee row right now. And Geralt lets us select a row, whichever row we play him on. Geralt is a flexible card, so we can choose any row which to place him on. And then he removes the biggest minion on our opponent's side on the same row, as long as that row has 15 strength or more, and that's a pretty sweet card. I was pretty happy to get this out of the booster, so... that will remove Eskel over here. Oh, and because we played a gold card...
Stand and fight.
This game is pretty complicated at first, but allow me to explain what just happened there. This is a card named Roach, which is Geralt's horse, I imagine. Why he's on the roof, I have no idea. But whenever a player, that includes me, plays a gold card, and Geralt was a gold card, Roach appears, and appears on a random row for our opponent. So Roach was probably in his deck, and from anywhere Roach just appears and, well, it will appear again after this round ends, and we would play a gold card next round, for example. And then our opponent played a card, one of the very few cards actually that has some interaction with gold units. This will convert any gold unit to silver, so that means our opponent can actually interact with the Geralt over here. Although he would likely want to actually interact with the skirmishers here, because the skirmishers are basically stronger than Geralt right now. Geralt's done his job. I'm liking this. Alright, we are still ahead. However, because we've already lost one game, we can't really pass here. If our opponent's last card, or his hero power over here, would allow him to gain 4 more strength, well, basically 5 more strength, then we would lose this game. So passing is not really an option, but we have an excellent card over here, which I always tend to call Swipe, but is actually called Lacerate. It removes 3 strength from all units in one specific row. You can target your own rows, probably not recommended. But this row here looks pretty juicy. Removing 15 strength from our opponent, I'm liking life right now. So that's excellent. Very satisfying too. And our opponent passes, so he has only 1 more card as well as his hero power. We might as well pass also. And that gives us the second round and a very, very sizable advantage for the last round. So we're looking pretty good here actually. So that kind of undermines my point about the AI I was going to make, because I was expecting to get thrashed here. I've been getting trashed all day by the AI, and that's mostly deck quality. And that is another complaint that I'll get to later, but yeah, the AI can be tough to beat at times. So yeah, let's actually go with our hero power right now. So each faction has multiple leaders, and we get a leader for each faction to start the game out with. So our leader here is Krach and Krates. Krach? Yeah, I'll call him Krach. And he will spawn 2 7 strength minions that damage themselves when they come into the battlefield. So basically an injured blade master if you're familiar with Hearthstone. Which is pretty decent. And a good way to pass the time. Because our opponent would already know that we have this card available. Now our opponent played a gold card, and because of his faction power, that gold card gained some extra strength, and because Roach was in his graveyard, it got swept off the battlefield at the end of the last round. Now Roach just reappears, and our opponent just played 17 strength with 1 card. That's pretty nasty, right? But luckily we have a lot of card advantage over here, and our opponent's hero power here, he's playing full test, will let him copy a bronze unit on his side, and it appears that he doesn't have any great targets for that, except maybe if this last card over here is a bronze card. So a little hesitant. But I think, well, I could just remove Roach from the board here, but I think I'll just go with the light longship. We're looking pretty good. Not upset about that. So that means our opponent just played his last card, which is a bronze unit. That if we remove this from the board right now, that would be a really good idea. Because then his very last option, which is to use his hero power, his hero card, whatever, his leader card, nomenclature can be tricky sometimes. But that means that his leader card is basically useless. So let's do that exactly, because denying options from my opponent is a really good idea. So that did absolutely nothing because he didn't have any bronze units to copy. And that means we can just clean up here with killing Roach. Sorry, poor horsey. Our opponent passes because he doesn't have any other options, and that means that the final round is ours. Also, this card is now 11 strength in our graveyard, so that's pretty great. That would also give us an 18 strength power swing, so that's pretty sweet. Alright, so we actually beat the AI. I'm amazed. I wasn't expecting this, but the main point I was trying to make here is when we go take a look at the deck builder. That sounds like a decent idea. I have a decently sized deck by now, and that also allows us to take a bit of a look at deck construction. So a Gwent deck consists of a minimum of 25 cards, as you can see over here. Maximum size 40 cards. You're usually better off just sticking to the minimum, as is usual with collectible or tradable card games, which includes at most 4 gold cards, at most 6 silver cards, and all of those cards need to be unique. So we've got 3 gold cards here. They're all the gold cards I've got. I've gotten pretty lucky, actually, because most gold cards are actually pretty rare. Everyone in the closed beta has a Gerald card, an extra fancy Gerald card even, because this is, at the moment, the only animated card in the game. So I've got 2 additional gold cards. I've got a couple of silver cards, 5 to be exact. So my deck is not optimal, and I definitely don't have the gold cards or silver cards I would like to include. But at least I have a count of 5 silvers and 3 gold cards, and a beginning player only has the single Gerald card. Perhaps not all the bronze cards he would like to include, perhaps not all the ideal silver cards, so the beginner decks are pretty trashy, and the difference in power between bronze cards, silver cards, and gold cards is pretty big. And that is one of the problems with the game right now, is that the first few games that you play before you can make some decent deck upgrades can be pretty painful, and especially when the AI then plays a deck with just in general a lot higher card quality than your deck. It can be really, really rough to beat. I've been bashing my head against the AI for a bit, and after that I just said, what the hell? Let's just go up against some players, and I actually had a much more reasonable chance of winning, surprisingly. So let's just jump into some what's it called? Some casual matches. That's the only semi-competitive kind of Gwent that you're going to play right now. So let's find an opponent and pit our deck up against them. I've been having a decent-ish win rate, surprisingly, with this deck on the ladder. I'm calling it a ladder, but there's not really a ladder. There's just a matchmaking system, basically. Alright, so we are fighting the mirror match here. I'm wondering what we'll find, but you've seen the deck in action a little bit, so you should have an idea of what we're trying to do here. I'm always trying to keep only one Clandemon Pirate here. I'm not the biggest fan of... Actually, I'm not the biggest fan of the Hunter in the mirror match, so I'm throwing that one away. I don't want 2 skirmishers in my opener hand. So this is looking fine. I'm liking this. And starting with a Clandemon Pirate is a good idea. You always want to have played one in the first round, just to remove the other 2s from your deck. And this accomplishes 2 things. This accomplishes 2 things. It both get some minion out of the board, and get some stuff in the graveyard, as well as thinning our deck. So the next few draws will be better. Alright, so we've got a 6 against a 5. We should probably play a few more cards before showing our hand. Our intent is probably to lose the first game, but if we can win it, then of course we would be in a better position. I don't hate playing the long ship here, that's probably fine. And as you can see, we are actually on a... well, you probably haven't seen it yet, but we are actually on a timer right now. Which is also why I started out with going up against the AI, because you can take as long as you want, and explaining the game a little bit is advised, because it can be pretty confusing at first, especially since all the interactions are a little bit more a little confusing for when you're used to different kind of card games. I really needed a drink there. So let's see what our opponent's answer is here. I'm suspecting, at least, he's not a very optimized deck builder either, but that just means we have a fair chance here. So that's pretty good. Let's go with the prize-winning cow here, I think. The scores are even, so the cow is actually fine. Because the cow gives us enough power to force our opponent to actually play a card if he wants to win this game. And it also increases our chance for the next round if our opponent chooses to do nothing, or at least doesn't kill the cow. Which is the real choice, by the way. Killing the cow is a definite... it's a gamble. Because, well, you can easily beat the cow in strength, so he can take this game, and I think we'll give him this game, won't we? I could actually do the same. That's not that good. Let's think about this for a little bit. We can remove 6 strength. That's actually fine, you know? We don't have to commit any of our good cards. If we remove 6 strength, then our opponent will be incentivized to play at least another card. And if we tie... I don't know whether ties are good for us. That's actually curious. We could also get some value with Gerald here. Or perhaps we could use our hero card to good effect here. Or perhaps the Commander's Horn. Well, that's more for the turn after, I think. I think we're dropping Gerald here. Because we can get some value out of that right now, and it's not always a card you can play to its maximum potential. So let's go with that on the back row, destroying the big ship, and see what our opponent's answer is going to be. Or he could just concede the first round, which is also fine. Playing his own Gerald, a different kind of Gerald, of course. Let's see, he's leaving us in strength 22 to 19. We can remove 3 strength with the Lacerate. I don't like committing the Priestess because it's a really good late game card. I could do the Horn, I could play Triss for a 12-point swing. I could use the Commander's Horn, actually, which is a card that can be a little tricky to use. Actually, let's go with our hero power. If we can use an option that's already visible to our opponent, then that leaves him guessing to what the cards in our hand are. And that can definitely be to our advantage. It also makes the Commander's Horn in our hand a lot better, so there's that. If he wants to fight us on the board right now, then we've got a pretty good case for ourselves, I'd say. We could go with a Lacerate here, I don't hate that. Do we really want to fight for the board so hard on the first few turns, though? I don't like fighting for the board on the first turn, but I guess we don't really have the late game advantage either, because our opponent is also playing Skellige, so... yeah, I think the Lacerate is actually fine, or perhaps the Commander's Horn is going to be... Yeah, the Commander's Horn is actually going to be better. It's a card that's harder to use, I think. The Lacerate can always do 3 damage to one of our opponent's minions, and I guess the Commander's Horn can always double the strength of one of our minions. You can pretty much count on having 1 minion on the board, but it's a tricky question. Our opponent could very well pass here, and indeed he does. So that leaves us with a 13 strength lead, which means automatically that we're also passing right here. Because, well, there could be a reason to actually keep playing cards while you're ahead on the board, but usually you don't really want to. So expecting to lose this round, although we do start with quite a lead on the board, makes me a little scared to overcommit, but we could go for the win right now. That is definitely an option. Now, let's be aware that our opponents could be playing Scorch. Not much we can do about that. I think I'm fine with committing a Longship here, or we could just choose to pass. Would that be awful? Actually, I'm fine with going with the Longship here. We can always reanimate the Longship or reanimate something else. I'm mostly fine with it. Alright, so Svanrige lets him discard a card and then draw a card, so that's pretty great. This is basically a Silverware Golem. It resurrects when you discard it. So he got some pretty good value there. We're expecting to lose this round. He still has to commit at least 1 card. So I don't hate where this is going. I kind of don't want to pass, though. We've got Triss here for a pretty good power swing, but we can always use that next round. I think I'm committing the Scald here, just to get a little bit of value out of it. And it is a card that can be tricky to use sometimes. So let's go with the Scald on the last row. Especially when card counts are getting lower and lower. It can be tricky to make use of cards like this, so that's why I committed the Commander's Horn in the first round. Alright, that's fine. That's fine. That probably means he doesn't have a Scorch in hand. And I'm fine with passing right now. We have 3 cards in hand, our opponent has 4, but needs to commit another card or he just loses. We could go for the win here, but I don't really feel too confident about that, especially since he has 1 more card in hand. We're fine with just passing. He needs to commit 1 more card, and then it's 3 of ours versus 3 of his. We both draw a card. I think our cards are pretty good, so I feel pretty good about this. As long as we can get at least 6 strength out of our Lacerate, then we have a pretty good hand, I'd say. Ooh, that's a card, sir. So that is Jennifer, and Jennifer either gives all minions on the battlefield +2, or gives all minions -2. And that just gave him the edge, but I'm pretty glad to not be up against that card in the final round. And that is a really good draw. So I'm feeling pretty good here. He has to play the first card, so there's kind of an advantage for us. This is definitely a game where you don't want to go first if given the choice, which is also pretty interesting. I was expecting that, but we have one of our own, so that's pretty okay, I'd say. Yeah, let's go with the Priestess of our own.
Modern Freyr is patient, but she brooks no insult.
And reviving the same minion is actually a pretty good idea, I'd say, because that also protects us from Scourge again. Excuse me if that made a loud noise. Oh, that's also a pretty good card. But he does not... Well, he basically has the same options as we do, so as long as we can get a good Lacerate, I think we're in pretty good shape. Now that is also pretty good. Alright, so he's diversifying amongst the rows. That is fine. Let's not give him any options. Let's not give him any options to play a Scorch. Should he have drawn one? I'm fine with going Triss here. And let's see, targeting the middle row, I'd say.
How can I help?
Let's not show our hand immediately. I'm shooting this mostly because this leaves him with the strongest minion on the field, so if he has a Scorch, he cannot use it right now. I can't imagine he would shoot arming, though. That's quite illogical. And he also has a pretty good hand, but this Lacerate in our hand is looking pretty juicy. I completely forgot this had an effect when a unit is resurrected, but that's fine. We can Lacerate his last row, and we have a pretty good last card to finish the game with, so as long as he doesn't have something too particularly... Oh, that's dirty. Those were some pretty good last cards, and I don't know... I don't think our last card is going to be good enough here. So the best we can do over here, let's quickly hide, is a Skull for 10 strength, which is not enough, unfortunately. But it is the best choice we have right here, so might as well do it. Play the Skull in the final row, and that is not enough to beat our opponent with, unfortunately. Oh, it also triggers his... Maybe I did not notice that, but... that's unfortunate. He had some pretty good last cards, so that was definitely a good game. Alright, I will play one more game, I think, that allows us to buy a card keg, which I would definitely like to show you. So if this game is a loss, then I'm unfortunately going to cut it out. There will be losses. I'm not deliberately only showing you. Well, I just lost, so... I was going to say I'm not going to deliberately only show my wins, but that was a tight match. I like that one. And as you saw, at the end of the game, I was given the option... Oh, we could not find an opponent. Well, then we'll just try again. I was given the option to give my opponent good game, which is a little bonus that... that gives your opponent either basically 5 gold or 5 dust.
Up and at 'em, lazy mingers.
Oh boy.
You'll sleep when you're dead.
Alright, so this is an alternate leader for Skellige, which leads to more of a reanimation theme. Alright, always mulligan pirates. Mulligan until you have 1 pirate at most. This is pretty nice, I'd say. I don't like Shieldsmiths that much. I don't like Skulls either in our starting hand. So let's mulligan that one away. The Hunter isn't particularly great against other Skellige decks either, but let's start by, of course, just playing pirates. That's never a bad idea. Let's see. Ooh, what's that card again? I don't really remember. Remove 2 strength from a random opposing non-gold unit whenever a unit on your side is destroyed or discarded. That seems like a really bad idea, so let's just destroy that. I don't want that to... oh boy. Can we still kill that? Well, we could lacerate it, but that seems like a bit of a waste. He really seems to want it, though. So perhaps we should just kill it again. He did use a priestess to revive it, so he's really planning something big here. I suppose. Oh, it does not gain strength, so I suppose we can leave it be for a little bit.
I swear on my honor.
Oh, that is not a bad card to draw. So we can still remove it next turn. I like that. Discard the skirmisher so we can revive it later. Yeah, I'm liking life right now. Oh boy, he's planning on losing this round. Alright. So that is a disloyal card. Oh, that's dirty, by the way. That is a disloyal card, which is a card you give to your opponent, but usually gives you something in the way of an advantage in return. I think we're just passing in that case. He just gave us 9 strength, so he'd better give... He'd better play something pretty big here to catch up to us. And he definitely could, but I don't expect him to, and even if he does, that's fine. As long as he doesn't buff the crap out of it, then I'm entirely okay with this, I think. So that is a card that lets him keep a selected minion for the next round. which can be pretty nice if your opponent has passed, because I could have definitely removed that, but I already passed, so I wasn't given the option to remove it anymore. However, he can't discard cards in the first turn, mostly because he wants to get some value out of his longship. So unless he buffs it right now, we can just play another archer and remove it, which is nice. I'm not feeling too horrible about this, and we are basically equaling cards. Oh, it's our turn. Wait, it's our turn? Oh yes, we did win the last round, so... I was really confused there for a sec. I was really expecting our opponent to take that last round, but he didn't. And that's fine. Alright, we're playing with a lot of removal here, and I'm liking where this goes. That is a card I don't like to be on the board, so let's just remove that. If he's playing that card in his deck, then he definitely wants to take advantage of it. Oh boy, bringing out all the fancy cards here. So there's another, perhaps a big strike against the game, is that a lot of people have a lot of fancy cards, and our opponent is certainly one of those people. And it can feel a little disheartening going up against someone who obviously has all the fancy cards and you don't. But that's just the general way things go in card games, I suppose. So our opponent really wants to win this round. How much do we want to commit right now? That is a good question. We definitely don't want to spawn the Malcrate Warriors with our hero power, because that's also 5 strength, which is really vulnerable. I think I'm fine with committing a longship here. How about that? Just putting something on the board. Oh, well, he keeps discarding. So discards a Silverware Golem, I suspect. I just keep calling them Silverware Golems. They're basically just pirates, but... Oh, that did not discard... What did he discard then? I'm a little curious right now. Let's take a look at his graveyard, because there's a lot of fancy stuff in there. Oh my. He's playing Fox. That's curious. A lot of curiosities going on here. Perhaps his deck isn't as decked out as I thought it would be, but... how much do we want to commit right here? I guess I'm actually fine removing that Foundry Gay, I guess, or just committing Triss. We could also... Actually, we're 13 to 12, we're equaling cards right now. I could just pass, and I really don't like it. Let's go with our hero power and see if we can get some Commander's Horn value while we can. Yeah, I would be okay with that. Okay, so that is the same card we have in our hand right here. It's a little unfortunate on our side because it needs to deal 2 damage to 3 minions. So it can be a little unfortunate because that might lead to you damaging your own minions. It's just the sad truth of that card. I'm pretty happy with the Commander's Horn here. I think those cards are not dangerous, so I don't need to remove them. Getting some value out of the Commander's Horn is probably fine. We could pass, I guess. He needs to commit another card to win this round. He needs to win this round. And I don't mind him committing another card, actually. I think I'm fine passing here. Because he just played a card which brought him to an even score. And now he needs to commit another card to win this game. So I think I like that, yeah. So he used his hero power here. Alright, that is a nice card. If you forgive me, I won't explain how every single card works, because we'll be here forever, but... yeah, he used another Adrenaline Rush. That's a curious deck, friend. Oh boy. Oh, that card. Right. That is also really dangerous. I guess I will let him have... the 5 in that case. Ooh. Yeah, that's fine. We can play Triss and get rid of the 4. That seems like a really great idea. He doesn't have a lot of cards, so destroy this, because that would buff every single minion he has on the board.
Come on, quick now.
And this will damage every minion that is played, so don't mind that too much. We can still destroy that with a Scorch, that's pretty nice. So remove that one. Then he's up to 12 strength with only 2 cards in hand.
Listen here. Listen well.
Let's see, he has 3 minions, so that's an excellent opportunity for our own Black Hand. And last card, our opponent forfeits. Alright, let's send him good game, because it was a good game. And let's see about the spoils. So that's a good opportunity to talk about the reward system for this game. As you can see, there's sort of an experience bar with all these question marks down the road. When you win a game, when you win a casual game for now, you get a little bit of experience that brings you towards the next step. So you can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Why there's an extra step right here, but there's probably something with the rollover of the quests between yesterday and today. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but every question mark you get a little bonus that is either 15 or 15 scraps. I'll get to that, how that works later, but just a small bonus for winning one game. And when you get to the end, you get a bigger bonus, which in the last case was 75, or this declines over time, but the bonuses you accumulate are reset every single day. So for your first 3 wins, you get 100 ore, which is enough to buy 1 booster. So that's pretty nice. And then for 6 wins, you get another 75. Then for 12 wins, you get another 50. And then the once per game bonuses start to decline. So the more you play each game, the harder it will get to accumulate more resources. So this basically incentivizes you to at least play a couple of games every day, which is basically a daily quest system, except that this system appears to be pretty generous, actually. So let's go check out the shop here. We can buy additional boosters. The game's in open beta, but the developers have confirmed that every booster purchased with real money, at the very least, will be reimbursed after the open beta ends, if they should decide to reset after the beta, which is definitely not confirmed. They have said that they will only reset if absolutely necessary. Not a lot is known about this yet, but more will be clear in time. Let's go buy a keg and see what's in there, because that is another system in this game that I really enjoy. So let's take a look at that.
Cards you get, you must deserve it.
Let's go open up this card keg here. So a card keg, or a booster, contains 5 cards, of which 4 are revealed right now. So let's just take a look. You can, of course, receive doubles, cards you already have, but those can be disenchanted into scraps, and you can use your scraps to craft any card you wish. And the final card in every single booster will be selected among 3 cards. In this case, it is a rare. Oh, I really wanted one of these, so that's pretty good. I'm definitely going with the Dimitri Bomb here, because that's a really versatile card, and I was going to probably craft one of these if I didn't open one of those pretty soon, actually. So I'm pretty happy with this. The bear is also a good card, but I'm going with the Dimitri. Dimitri Bomb? Whatever. I'm taking this. Alright, so this is the booster we just opened. There are 4 rarities in the game. And that is actually something I probably should also be explaining. Who knew? If we take a look at our card collection, and this might be a little... This might be... I'm developing accents where I go. This may be a little confusing for new players, but rarity is not the same as quality in this game. So what I mean by that is we have certain group of cards. So bronze cards you can have 3 copies of in each deck. So every bronze card above 3 can basically be safely scrapped. So I have a couple of cards over here. Let me show you. I have spare cards, 16 spare cards that I can disenchant or scrap. For 95 scraps, I have 475 scraps, so I can basically craft 3 epic cards or 1 legendary card with the amount of scrap I have found so far, without scrapping anything that I might need later. So that's pretty nice. But rarity of the cards is not necessarily correlated to the quality of the cards. So bronze cards are, in general, are either rare, such as this card, or common, such as this card. And silver cards will be either legendary, such as this one, it will be epic, such as this one, or rare, such as this one. And that can be a little confusing to new players. So a silver card can be either legendary, epic, or rare, which can make certain decks a lot more expensive than other decks. So there can be a bit of a barrier, especially since the power level of silver cards is a bit higher than bronze cards, and gold cards are a bit stronger than silver cards. Legendary cards are not necessarily stronger than cards that are less rare, but they are kind of expensive to craft. However, I do feel that the reward system in the game is pretty generous, because as you saw, I just played a couple of games today. I think I've played maybe 4 games today, and I've already gotten more than 100 scrap, more than 100 ore, I mean, a couple of scraps, and I could just play a bunch more, and you can within reason, I think, earn like 3 boosters a day. Which, compared to other games, well, compared to mostly Hearthstone, which is the collectible card game I have the most experience with, which is pretty generous, because that would mean that you could, for example, craft 1 legendary per week. Is that an over-exaggeration? I don't think that's unreasonable, and there are few card games where that is actually a viable possibility, I think. So I'm feeling pretty good about the reward system right now. However, it should be said that you only get experience for winning games. And that leads me to the barrier of entry argument again. I do feel there is quite a barrier of entry in this game. It can be really hard to get the snowball rolling, basically. Your first few games will be absolute hell. I really hated the game for the first few games I played, and that's mostly the fault of the starter decks, I feel. So the starter decks, let's take a quick look at one of those. Let's go to the deck builder. I still have all these starter decks right here. So the Skellige starter deck, for example, which is one of the more reasonable ones. It is a bit of a mishmash. It tries to damage its own minions a little bit. It tries to buff all kinds of minions on the same row a little bit. It tries to buff damaged minions. It tries to play a little bit of weather, which we haven't encountered, but is quite a controversial system. The deck is all over the place, and when you're starting out to play this game, you don't really have the cards to make a coherent deck out of this. So the best you can do is try and beat a couple of other beginners and get the snowball rolling a bit, because after you've opened like 4 boosters or something, you'll have a couple of cards to replace the less coherent parts of the deck with, and then your win rate will generally rise a little bit. But it can feel a little bad at the start, especially when the AI, which I think should be meant to get you started, to get you used to the game a little bit, to try some stuff out. The AI is playing some really strong cards, which can really feel overwhelming as a new player, which can make you feel like you won't really have a chance against players. But don't fret, just jump into ladder. You'll lose a couple games, but as long as you at least give give it your best, then your opponent will most of the time recognize this and at least give you some ore, give you some scraps for your effort. From my experience, 90% of games will have your opponent give you a good game afterwards. So at least losing gives you a little bit of a benefit, and every once in a while you'll squeeze a win in, and if you manage to win 3 games each day, then you'll have a booster each day. And that is where the kind of generous reward system will help you catch up eventually. And after I've played, I've played a few games the first day, and then I decided I hated the game, and I probably wouldn't touch it again. I started googling a little bit about it. I made a slightly better starting deck and actually won a few more games and opened a few more boosters and got the ball rolling. And I'm actually pretty positive about the game right now, but it definitely has some issues. There's some issues with not knowing all the cards and not being able to view in-game what the cards exactly did, especially cards that don't leave a minion on the battlefield to check out. But the developers claim they are working on it. The game is very much still in open beta. It is in constant being patched. That is not a proper sentence, so I'm sorry. But you catch my drift. The game is constantly being patched still. As a matter of fact, just a few days ago there was a kind of big balance patch. I'm curious to see where it'll end up. I'll give the game at least a couple more plays every single day, I think, because I'm enjoying my time with it. So, if you're interested, you can sign up for the beta. There's no guarantee that you'll get an invite. If you have already signed up, the developers have said that at the end of this week, everyone who signed up in June this year should have an invite. If you signed up later than that, then you might get an invite sooner or later. There is still a chance that you'll get one. You can probably buy one on some less than reputable places on the internet. I won't offer any advice or opinion on those. You can definitely get a key if you really want to. With that being said, would definitely recommend you at least try this game out when it is released. Perhaps sign up for the beta, I'll leave that up to you. The beta is still very much a beta experience, so be advised when you step into that. I can offer no guarantees about your collection that you amassed during the beta actually transferring to the actual game when it is released. So also be advised with that in mind. With all that being said, I do hope you've enjoyed this first look at Gwent the Witcher card game. I'm enjoying it a lot. I hope you enjoyed my first look at the game and found my commentary at least a little bit helpful. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, have a great day, and I will see you again pretty soon.